Okay, so Be'ezras Hashem, we are continuing with our weekly series of Shirim on the Zohar Kadosh, where we dive deep into the Torah of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai to illuminate more of the Torah of Rashbi, to reveal that Rashbi is always already found by Moshe Rabbeinu, and that the only access that we have to the light of Rashbi is through the light of Moshe Rabbeinu Raya Mehemna. But ultimately, it's our job to draw down the light from Moshe Rabbeinu, from Torah Shebechsav, in its concealment, into the revelation of the Zohar Kadosh, which is the secret of Tashma and Tachazi, of coming to see, coming to listen, like Rabbi Shimon's name implies, Shmiya, to listen, to hear the inner voice of the psukim, and then to come to a place of tachazi, of seeing a depth and a reality that exists within the psukim that doesn't necessarily exist in accordance with the externalized vision of the pasuk. It exists, all of the potential interpretations of the pasuk, and all of the innumerable understandings of the psukim, and the psukim within the psukim, and the words within the words that the Chavraya are revealing, and it's only a tipa min hayam, and it's only in the secret of Megala Tefach u'Mechased Tfachayim, that the Tanaim and the Amoraim, the Lashonos of the Tzaddikim and the Zohar Kadosh, each thing reveals how much more is hidden, and all of the potential possibilities and all of the infinite ways of understanding the Torah HaKadosh through the innermost point of our heart is contained within the most external casing of the Pasuk in its Pashat Pshat orientation through the Meforshim that we have. The Osios of the Torah contain all things. The Aleph Beis contains all possible interpretation. That's the Torah Shebechsav of Moshe Rabbeinu. The Torah Shebal Peh Kavyachol of Rabbi Shimon is uncovering the secret hidden light that exists within the Torah Shebechsav, but hidden away. Meaning to say that the entire light of the Zohar Kadosh, the entire light of the Bina of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, which comes to draw down the concealed light that existed in a potential form within Chachma, to draw it down through the Eish of Drasha Satira and the Yud Gimel Midos, Sha'atori Nejeshes Vahem, that Rabbi Shimon and the Chavraya were able to wield like swords of Cherev Hitzata Meishala, that you Meitara, that you took the sword out of the sheath. The sword is the Cherev Pipios, is the secret of Torah Shebal Peh, and the Yud Gimel Midos, Sha'atori Nejeshes Vahem, and the Tikkun of the Yud Gimel, Tikkunei Dikna, and the Tikkunim and the minimizations of the light of Taras Moshe into the vessels and the hairs of Rabbi Shimon, into that space of Rabbi Shimon and the Torah of finding one's light in their own cave, in the cave of Bina, we come out with the understanding that what appeared to be a simple meaning is in truth representative of an infinite depth that rests underneath it. Now, that infinite depth that Rabbi Shimon is now being Megala is not, God forbid, something that's separate and apart from Taras Moshe. We know this from the Rebbe of Rabbi Shimon, which is Rabbi Akiva, that Moshe Rabbeinu thought that Rabbi Akiva had a hasaga that Moshe Rabbeinu didn't have, and therefore there was a miyut of Moshe's das, because the understanding is that everything comes from das of Moshe. And when Moshe Rabbeinu sees the das of Rabbi Akiva, which is the das tachton, which is the tzike kedera, which is the Baruch Shem Kavod Malchus Le'Olam Va'ed, and the Mesiras Nefesh, that Moshe Rabbeinu was not capable of truly engaging because he couldn't smell the tzike kedera, so he was Taishech Kocho, his Koach descended a little bit, and he descended back 18 rows or 8 rows, he descended back, feeling that there was a minimization of his strength, until HaKadosh Baruch Hu revealed that it's halacha l'Moshe misinai. Ultimately, every particularization of Torah emerges from the inexplicable depths and the lack of definition that exists within the infinite drops of infinitude that rest at the core of Torah's Moshe. Every possible thing that's going to eventually be explained until the coming of Mashiach and onwards is all already contained within the Das of Moshe. As the Vilna Gaon Schlusa Ganalinu said, and Rav Menachem Mendel of Shklov, the Talmud Mufak of the Vilna Gaon, brought down from the Gra, because that's the Avodah of the Talmidim. The Avodah of the Talmidim is to draw that which is unsaid within the writings of the Rebbe, within the writings of their teacher, within the writings of the Torah they're looking upwards towards, and to draw their Bina through their understanding, like Yeshua from the Das of Moshe, like the moon, which is reflective of the sun's light, to draw our own personal understanding. Kol chad v'chad l'fum shira dilei. Each person in accordance with the conjecture of their own heart. The Chidushei Torah, the unfolding of the Bina, that Eish and that Sreif of Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Shimon, and all of the Pratim and all of the Oires that come from that place of Rabbi Akiva, and the Birurim that take place through that process of Rabbi Akiva, the Talmidav, in the Zman of the Omer, which is the difficult process of being Mevar, the Nefesh of Bahamas, which Moshe Rabbeinu, at least at a certain point through the drawing down of the Torah Shebechsav, didn't have to engage in. And we're coming to find that all of these Birurim are ultimately coming from Moshe Rabbeinu himself. And the Talmidim, the job of the Talmud is to bring down a Bina. is to bring down the potential understanding that is always hidden within the general framework. And again, to go back to what Rav Menachem Mendel of Shklov said, was that it's impossible to understand the Sod without the Pshat, and it's impossible to understand the Pshat without the Sod, because ultimately the Pshat is a levush chitzoni, which contains the very essence of the thing itself. It's the Hariula Hashem Kol Ha'aretz. It's the most basic understanding, the Aleph Beis, the black ink of it, the black fire on the white fire of it, the irreducible thisness of it. And within that irreducible presence of the Osios in the Torah of Moshe rests the infinite depths of the Torah of Rashbi, the infinite depths of the Torah of Pnimius HaTorah, and therefore one has to be able to grasp both at the same time. That's the avodah of Talmidim. This is why with Rabbi Shimon there's always the Chavraya, and you always have this by the Tzaddikim. By the Arizal you had Rav Chaim Vital. Today's Rav Chaim Vital's yard site. Chaim Vital Sklusi Ogen Aleinu was the ksav, was the yad, so to speak, of the Arizal. Without Rav Chaim Vital, we would not have had a hasaga of the chachma that came with the revelation of the Arizal. That short amount of time that was infinite in its capacity of spiritual expression would not have been captured. It was through the writings of Rav Chaim Vital, the Talmud Ne'eman, the Bina that receives the chachma, the Yehoshua that receives the Moshe, that we have a capacity of now understanding the interpretations of what the Arizal meant. Only because the original Talmud was capable of drawing down that Torah can now other Talmidim come along and have a graspability of that Torah. The same is true with Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Abba. Rabbi Abba was the kosev of Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Shimon gave the Torah over. Without Rabbi Abba, we wouldn't have had a hasaga of the Torah of Rabbi Shimon. Without Rabbi Nassim, we wouldn't have had a hasaga of the Torah of Rabbi Nachman. Without the Magid and the Toldos, we would not have had a hasaga of the Torah of the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh. Without Rav Menachem Mendel of Shklov, Rav Chaim Volozhiner, Rav Yitzchak Isaac Chaver, the Leshem Shoy Vachalam, Rav Yitzchak Kalner, we would not have had the Torah of the Vilna Gaon. Without the elements of the Ramchal that with the Talmidim of himself and his own Talmidim in that space, we wouldn't have had the writings of the Ramchal. Without the Talmidim of the Balasulam, we wouldn't have had the Balasulam. Without the Talmidim of the Rashash and the Torah Chacham and the Shaman Sasson and the Chidah, we wouldn't have the fuller expression. Every tzaddik has a shayresh that is mispashet into the light of Bina of those Talmidim. So on the art side of Rav Chaim Vital, where we're trying to draw down the light of the Talmidim Ha'amitim, so we're also going to learn a mimer in the Zohar HaKadosh on Daf Pei Dalet Amar Aleph from Rabbi Abba, who was the Kosev, Rabbi Abba, who was the Talmud to Rabbi Shimon that drew down the Bina from the Chachma of Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Abba Pasach, Rabbi Abba opens up. Panai alai v'chaneni tenei uzcha la'avdecha. David Malka Mashiach says in Kapitel Peivav, he says to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem, turn your face to me. Turn your face to me. Tanei uzcha la'avdecha, and give your strength to your Eved. Now, this is coming off of the Zohar's drasha on the pasuk in this week's parsha. Al tifnu ela alilim, that a person should not turn their face towards foreign forces, foreign gods, foreign powers, foreign modes of control. And the Zohar Kadosh Kedarcha Chabakodesh is revealing a deep love within the severity of that pasuk, and it's revealing that in truth, right, if you don't look at what one shouldn't look at, those other powers, pana alai v'chaneni, then you have the power of saying, Hashem, you look at me, give me compassion, give me grace. Tanei oizcha la'avdecha, give strength to your Eved. Panei alai v'chaneni, turn towards me and bless me. Turn towards me and give me. V'chi lo have le'lekut shabrichu ba'alma shapiru kedavid. HaKadosh Baruch Hu had no beauty in the world like David Malka Mashiach. There was no beauty in the world like David HaMelech, like that Malchus, which has nothing of its own, which appears to be destitute on the outside. The Iu Amar Pana Alai V'chaneni, and he, David Malka Mashiach, the most beautiful in the eyes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, says, turn your eyes towards me and give me compassion. Matnas Chinam, I cannot do it on my own. David HaMelech, again, is Malchus. We're always talking about Malchus. Malchus, which is ultimately the Shirish of Mashiach Tzidkenu. Pana alai v'chaneni, Malchus, David Malka Mashiach says to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, turn towards me and give me compassion, give me undeserved expression of love because I can't deserve it. Elahachi taninan. This is what we've already learned. David achra islay lekud sheberichu v'have memana alkama alklasoin iloyin mishayin. Don't think that this is only talking about David Melech in this world, who's asking such a thing of HaKadosh Baruch Hu to turn towards him. But rather, HaKadosh Baruch Hu has another David Achra Islay. And obviously this David Achra is not other than the David in this world, but rather it's the Shirish of the David in this world. Just as each and every person, each and every tzaddik, Moshe, Avram, every tzaddik, every person has the source above, that they're being makusha to at every moment. And it's our job to be machaber, the elevated self and the lower self. And so what the Zohar Kadosh here is telling us that, yeah, there's a lower David. There's a David in this world who's asking Hashem to turn his face towards him out of destitution. But in truth, The thing that's really asking Kadosh Baruch Hu to turn its face is the internal David, the David above. Elahachi tanin and David achre islay l'kutz b'richu. Hashem is another element of David. V'hu memana al kama achlesaini loyinim shayin. And this element of David, of Malchus, the Atzilus Kavyachol, is in control, has control seemingly over all forms of legions and strengths and legions of power. The Kadboi Kutshabirichu the Rachme al Alma, and when HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to bring Rachamim upon the world, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to bring that compassion, the waters of compassion upon the world, to elevate Malchus out of its concealment, Istakel Bahai David. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Kavyachol turns to this David, this ascendant David, V'naher Anpin. And there's an illumination of the face. HaKadosh Baruch Hu illuminates his face Kavyachol to this shirish of David. V'naher la'almin v'chayis alma. And he illuminates his face to the world, and the world continues. And this light of David Malka Mashiach that exists above Malchus the Atzilus, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu looks towards the Shechina HaKadosha, that illumination, that beauty shines forth forever. Reish Gilgalta Dahaba Israkimas Beshiva Tachshite Zain in the Dahaba. A crown, a golden crown upon the head with 7 extensions and weapons upon it made out of gold. Again, perhaps speaking about what we spoke about from the Ramchal yesterday, the tikkunim of Malchus itself. The koyach of David Malka Mashiach to be poyel zayin, that Malchus in its shleimus, in the Levana's lowest point, it reflects the deepest fullness that is going to be revealed. So too over here, the Zohar Kadosh is hinting to the Sheva Tachshite Zain in the Dahaba. These kochos that, yes, Malchus receives from Zer Anpin, it receives from above, but ultimately that reception from above is simply a Megala Milsal and Mafrei of what has always already belonged to David Malka Mashiach in the Shoresh. The Chavilusa, the Kadosh B'richu L'Kable. And a Kadosh Baruch Hu's love is illuminated in that desire Kavyachol to receive this David Ilah, this Shoresh of Malchus, this Shoresh of Knesset Yisrael. Miskios Richimusa Dilei Gavir. And out of the love that intensifies every moment that HaKadosh Baruch Hu looks at this David, HaKadosh Baruch Hu looks at Klal Yisrael, Knesset Yisrael, the love grows, Gavir, from the strength and the overwhelming power Kavyachol of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's love and desire to express the Rachamim Rabbim of Geula Shleim on Klal Yisrael. Amar le'Kudsha B'richu, Rabbeinu Shalom responds, is Di'ahader Einai L'Kable V'Yistakel Bei. Turn your eyes away from me, don't look. Begin the Inan Shapir in the Kula, because you're the most beautiful of all. David Malka Mashiach Knesset Yisrael Mum Ein Bach Keda Amart Hasibi Einech Menegdi. Turn your eyes away from me. Why? Hasibi Einech Menegdi the B'Shaisa the Ilan Einen Mistalken Bei because Shabrichu Kedain Misarin Beliba Kistin Bilisatre Berchimusa Ilah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Kavyachol asks Knesset Yisrael, asks David Malka Mashiach above to turn her eyes away from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because the gaze that Knesset Yisrael has towards HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that desire, that deep desire, that urgency of dependency that we need the Chanina and the Rachamim Rabbim of HaKadosh Baruch Hu Kavyachol cannot sustain himself from that love. HaKadosh Baruch Hu would be forced Kavyachol to reveal himself as a result of that Ahava that's doichik as a basar, as the Magid of Koshnitz describes so often, that the secret of the Tzimtzum is ultimately the love that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has for Klal Yisrael. And Ahava doicha es ashura, that through Ahava there's an expression downwards beyond all capacity. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants there to remain that space of Bechira, that space of perhaps not knowing that we're fully loved by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so that we can choose to believe that we're loved by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu, out of that deep love and desire for Klal Yisrael, he says, turn your eyes away from me. Turn your eyes away from me, because the Yichud is too strong. And in that moment, the love is so powerful that it needs to subside. And on this Nukud in the Zohar HaKadosh, Misarin Beliba Kistin Belistroy Berichimusa Ilah, there's an ascension of this painful, overwhelming love above that HaKadosh Baruch Hu desires that Knesset Yisrael remove her eyes from her for a moment. Zok the Rav Chaim Vital in his Agos on the Zohar HaKadosh in his space, Misarin Hamidus Elyonis B'Rav Tova. Means there's an orientation and there's a Minei Ubei and there's a desire towards Mashiach Tzidkenu and Rachamim Rabbim and a Zivug Ilah and a Minei Ubei that's so strong that a Kadosh Baruch Hu could only be meskaled in the secret of what we learned last week with Acharei Mois Kedoshim, learning the secret of Tainu Kahamtana, of waiting prior to that full Yichud for the proper time, and it demands a cooling off, it demands that moving of the eyes away. Besigusa shalhu v'drichimu ilah lagabe amar hasibi einayach minegdi. but it's out of a burning desire and a love that HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Klal Yisrael to turn her eyes away from him. Turn your eyes and place another place, because the Rachamim Rabim that you're orienting within me, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is enough to unleash the fullest Rachamim Rabim in the world. It's orienting that Rechimu. And this is what David says, and this is what it means by the lower David, Hu Admoini, and all of the thisness and all of the thickness of that Edom and that negativity and that absence. Specifically, there's the Yafa Inayim, the secret of Malchus, the Atzilus, that's able to be yored into the worlds of separation between Megalazain and the Nekudos and the Nitzoitzos of Or that are still there to be Megal, the secret of Malchus, Agnuza Baradla. That within that Adoimi, within that Dimyon of Esav, within that Dimyon of David Malchus, Mashiach of Malchus, which is the secret of Biyad and Nevi'im Adam, it's Megal, the secret of Yafa, the Yichud Ilah, of Yud-Hey, that the Zivuk should be Oili Yafa, and it's the goodness of vision. To begin the Hu David Ilah Shapira Rechima Tiyuf to the Kutchabrichu Davkala Pay. And it's specifically as a result of this elevated David Malka, this elevated source of Malchus, that the love that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has is ignited to connect to Knesset Israel. Amr David HaMelech says, Pana Alai V'chaneni Kagav Nada. David HaMelech is saying, turn your eyes towards me and have compassion on me. V'yamir Re'ei Re'i B'nei Kireach HaSadeh. That David HaMelech is saying in response to HaKadosh Baruch Hu saying, turn your eyes away from me. David HaMelech is saying, no, you turn your eyes to me, you return to us. We need you more than you need us, Rabbeinu Shalom. We need you more than you need us. And David Malka Mashiach is saying, you turn your eyes to us and give us that matnas chinam. And this is the same element of Vayomer Eibeni Reach Hasadeh Kasher Baruch Hu Hashem. That this is the secret of Yitzchak and Yaakov and the giving of the brachos of Yitzchak to Yaakov, that secret of taking that Malchus and elevating it back up to its right place, of uncovering the secret of the David Ilah, that's the Shirish of the David Tata, the elevated source of all of the concealment that a person experiences in their lives. And what is found there is that the Reach HaSadeh, there's the pleasant smell of the Sadeh of Gan Eden, Asher Baruch Hu as Hashem. Mashma da'ayali me'im Yaakov ginsa de Eden. It sounds like when Yaakov ascended to Yitzchak Avinu, he came with Gan Eden. He came with the Gan Eden of the mind. He came with that room of the Vitebsker in his mind. The Ihu state Tapuchin Kadishin, it's that chamber of the Vitebsker, the state Tapuchin Kadishin, the chamber of holy apples. The Ginsa de Eden la'ayli me. The Ginsa de Eden kamerafu bepusi of the Arche. And the Zohar Kadosh is asking a painful question. How could it be that he entered in with Gan Eden? How could it be that he entered in with Gan Eden? How big is Gan Eden? Gan Eden is so big, Gan Eden is so large, Gan Eden is so expansive, Gan Eden is so ever-present that it can't find access into a limited mindset, even by Yaakov. And how many vestiges and systems and magnificent palaces of goodness and levels of expression are found there. But rather, there's another Garden of Eden, there's another Gan Eden above that only HaKadosh Baruch Hu has access to, and only the love of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is ignited in this place. Again, the Gan Eden, the Malchus, the Shirish of the Malchus Elyon in the mind of the Yid. Only HaKadosh Baruch Hu goes there in the secret of the Vado. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu is always by the tzaddikim and the tamidim of the tzaddikim in this place of living in Gan Eden. And all the more so by Yaakov Avinu, again revealing the upper and the lower connections of Malchus. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu always promises to ascend with us into those places. And that bris that Yaakov Avinu receives, and that secret of that connectivity to the David Ilah, to the Malchus Ilah, and it's given over in Eretz Yisrael. Tanan Malamid Shenit Kafalula Eretz Yisrael. That Eretz Yisrael folded under his feet. That Gans Inyan of Eretz Yisrael came to the place of Yaakov Avinu in Chutz La'aretz. V'chi Eretz Yisrael Di Tov Parsa Arba Meos Parsa His Akra Me'asr V'Yasvit Choyse. Is it possible that such a big thing that's 400 amos, tough on tough, the concealment of the concealment, the katnus of the katnus necessary to come to Eretz Yisrael? Is it possible that could all come to Yaakov Avinu in this world? But rather, there's also an ascendant place of Eretz Yisrael that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has, and it's called Eretz Yisrael. It's the place of Malchus Kadisha, and it's always resting underneath the power of Yaakov Avinu. It always exists within the mind. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives it over to Klal Yisrael because of his love for them. To live with them there and to speak to them there. To protect them, and to protect them from all things. And it's referred to as the light of life, the land of life. But Ezra Hashem will continue to be weiter, to go weiter into the light of Malchus, into the light of Chaim, into the Eretz HaChaim, and to be Zoicha to the light of Reb Chaim Vital and the Hamshach of the Torah of the Tzaddikim Amitim Ad V'Yas Koyel Tzaddik B'Meher B'Yameinu. Amen.